Hi, I'm Andrew Torget with Texas History for Teachers. The story of American Indians, also known as Native Americans, often gets lost when we talk about the Texas Revolution. But what most people don't know is that both the Texans and Santa Anna spent a lot of time during the Revolution trying to get various tribes to side with them because they recognized the power that so many Native groups had long held in Texas. In fact, during the decades that led to the Revolution, American Indians had played major roles in shaping how both the Spanish and Mexican governments had tried to control things in Texas. One of the major reasons that Mexico had invited American settlers into Texas in the first place was because groups like the Comanches and Apaches had often raided towns like San Antonio. And so Mexico started inviting Americans into the region because they hoped that it might make it easier to defend against Native attacks. And it did help some, but throughout the 1820s and the early 1830s, there were still clashes between various tribes and both the Mexicans and new American settlers in Texas. When the Texas Revolution began in 1835, most American Indians decided to just stay out of the fight and let the Texans and the Mexican government battle it out between themselves. But there were a few tribes in eastern Texas who saw the revolution as an opportunity to get something that they had long wanted: title to their own lands. You see, there were several tribes such as the Shawnees, the Delawares, and the Cherokees who had moved into East Texas during the 1820s and the early 1830s because they were being pushed out of their lands in the United States. And once they were in Texas, these tribes petitioned the Mexican government to give them official land grants, just like the Anglo-Americans got, so that they could have official title to the places where they made their homes in East Texas. The Cherokees in particular had been trying hard for this, but the Mexican government, for a variety of reasons, had just never gotten around to officially issuing them title to any land. So, in the fall of 1835, just as the Texas Revolution was heating up, a Cherokee chief known as Chief Duwally, or Chief Bull, decided that now would be a really good time to try to get Mexico to promise his tribe title to their lands. So Duwally made a trip to San Antonio, the capital of Texas at the time, where he met with the local Mexican military commander, a man named Colonel Domingo Ugartecha. And Duwally explained to Ugartecha how the Cherokees, and then all the other tribes in East Texas, deserved their own land grants so that they could make their homes permanent. Ugartecha listened politely, and then he tried to get Duwally and the Cherokees to side with Mexico in whatever fighting might happen with the Texans. But Ugartecha made no promises about the land, so Duwally left San Antonio in frustration. Then, about a month later, in October 1835, around the same time as the Battle of Gonzales, Duwally had another meeting, this time with the other side, with the Texans, to see if the Texans would agree to give the Cherokees and their allies official title to lands in East Texas in exchange for their support during the Texas Revolution. Now you have to understand, the Texans desperately needed all the support they could possibly get, and so the new Texas government commissioned Sam Houston to make a special diplomatic mission to meet with the Cherokees, the Shawnees, and the Delawares, with a goal of keeping those Indians on the Texas side of the Revolution. So that's why Sam Houston spent much of February 1836, around the same time as the siege of the Alamo, negotiating a treaty with Chief Duwally and the East Texas tribes. And Houston's goal was simple: keep the tribes neutral in the war so that the Texans wouldn't have to fight both the Mexican army and the American Indians in East Texas. For his part, Duwally's goal remained exactly the same: get the new Texas government to promise that the tribes could keep their lands going forward. And he got what he wanted. Houston and Duwally signed a treaty that declared, quote, a firm and lasting peace forever that guaranteed American Indians claims to Northeast Texas. Now, for that to mean anything, of course, the Texans would have to win the war, and Duwally was not so sure that was going to happen. When Santa Anna marched into Texas with his massive army, the Cherokee chief recognized that the odds did not look good for the Texans. Santa Anna, for his part, recognized that the native tribes could help Mexico win if they began attacking the Texans in East Texas, while Santa Anna surrounded the Alamo in San Antonio. And so Santa Anna sent messengers to Duwally to ask him if the Cherokees would be willing to side with Mexico. And Diwali said that yes, they would, if they could be guaranteed title to their lands. And with those assurances, he agreed. And so now Diwali and the Cherokees had basically sided with both the Texans and Santa Anna in the war, and the plan was just to sit back and wait to see who won. Hopefully, whoever did would live up to their promises and ensure that the Indians in East Texas got title to their lands. Meanwhile, the war raged across Texas. Santa Anna killed all the defenders at the Alamo. His soldiers captured and then killed 400 Texans at Goliad. Sam Houston, now in charge of the Texas Army, retreated eastward until he finally met and defeated Santa Anna at the Battle of San Jacinto on April 21st, 1836. And through it all, American Indians stayed out of nearly all the fighting. But when the Revolution was finally over, those Indians found themselves in a very different situation after San Jacinto. In the new Republic of Texas, Indians had no rights under the Republic's newly adopted Constitution. And as it turned out, the Texas legislature would soon reject the treaty signed by Sam Houston and Chief Diwali. And that meant that the Cherokees and their allies did not get title to their lands as they were promised. Even more important, American settlers began pouring into Texas during the 1830s and 1840s, which meant that Anglo-Americans now outnumbered Native Americans in Texas. And that would bring tremendous new pressures for these native tribes in the years after the Texas Revolution.